Well, hey there, and welcome to The Bridge Online. It's great to have you with us today. If you are new with us, my name is Chris, and I am just thrilled that you've decided to spend an hour of your time with us. And if you are newer with us, we'd love to get to know you a little bit. And the best way to do that is for you to find the New Here button on your screen. If you are watching on Sunday morning, you can find that button and just click that. We'd love to reach out, say hello, and we'd love to send you a free gift as well. Well, we're going to kick things off as we usually do by going to the band, and they've got a song called Freedom Wild. So if you're at home, sitting in a coffee shop, wherever you're watching from, feel free to enjoy and even sing along.
In the dark of night, I was wandering, and then you called my name, and I came running. You took my shame, and you set my feet to dancing. Now I'm forever yours, and you are mine now. Running wild, throwing chains off in freedom. Lord, you have saved us, free to shout out your name and your glory, all for you, Jesus. Running wild in your freedom. Living in your light, by your spirit. And now I know your voice. Oh, I can feel it. You lead me on, and you set my feet to dancing. Now I'm forever yours, and you are mine now. Running wild, throwing chains off in freedom. Lord, you have saved us, free to shout out your name and your glory, all for you, Jesus, Jesus. Running wild, throwing chains off in freedom. Lord, you have saved us, free to shout out your name and your glory, all for you, Jesus. Running wild in your Lord, you have saved us, free to shout out your name and your glory, all for you, Jesus, Jesus. Running wild, throwing chains off in freedom. Lord, you have saved us, free to shout out your name and your glory, all for you, Jesus. Running wild in your freedom. Through every battle, through every heartbreak, through every circumstance, I believe you are my fortress. Oh, you are my portion, and you are my hiding place. I believe you are the way, the truth, the light. I believe you are the that you are provider. Oh, you are protector. You are the one I love. I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are. Oh, you are. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that are new. All my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I'm here with you. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that are new. All my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are. It's a new horizon, and I'm set on you. And you meet me here today with mercies that are new. All my fears and doubts, they can all come true, because they can't stay long when I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. And I believe you are the way, the truth, the life. I believe you are.
Amen. Well, we're in week 2 of our series called The Three Stooges. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you missed last week, maybe you're newer with us, I would highly recommend that you check out the first week later on. Go to bridgechurches.ca/on-demand and you will find week 1 and you will get caught up. But let me tell you just briefly what we're talking about. We are looking at 3 characters in the Bible, how they had similar opportunities and experiences, but the outcome was far different. But more importantly, we're learning a little bit about what the kingdom of heaven is like, and we're learning a little bit about what we can do with the time, treasures, and talents that Christ has entrusted to us. It's a fantastic series. Again, I highly recommend it if you missed it to check out week 1, but certainly you're going to enjoy today. But before we get to that, I want to talk about something we've got coming up very, very shortly. We have kids camp, and I've been talking about it for weeks, and others have been talking about it for weeks, because we are so unbelievably excited about it. We have an opportunity to minister to kids in the Ottawa area and their families. Last I counted, we had over 160 kids signed up, and we get to have them come in, have an unbelievably experience, have so much fun, but they get to learn about the gospel of Christ as well, and we get to minister to their families. And if you're in the Ottawa area, we really need something from you. If you're in the Ottawa area and you're handy, we transform this place. We don't simply put up a logo on the screen or put up a couple banners. We really do transform the building. And if you've been a part of our experiences before, you have seen the way we do it, and it is good. It is big. We go big or go home, and we go big because honestly, this is one of the biggest outreaches we have to our community year after year, and we just cannot wait to do it once again. So if you're handy and would love to help with some set builds or help paint or any of the things that we need to do to help get this place ready for 160 kids plus their families, we would love for you to be a part of that. So you can go to bridgechurches.ca/top3 to sign up. But also, maybe you're not handy, or you can do both, but if you're not handy or you're not in the Ottawa area, we would love for you to be praying for this event. And I don't say that simply because this is something we should be doing as a church, or I don't say that lightly, but really, we want to cover this event in prayer. As I mentioned, it is one of the biggest outreach opportunities we have to get to minister to over 160 kids and their families, and we just cannot wait to tell them about the love of Christ. We want them to have an incredible experience. We can't wait for them to be knocking down the doors and say, when are you doing this next year? And many of them do. But we want them to hear about the love of Christ. So please be praying for this event. Be praying already that Christ will be working in the hearts and the minds of the kids that will be attending, as well as their parents. It's going to be a phenomenal week, 11th to the 15th, and we just want you to be covering it in prayer. Wherever you are tuning in from, please be praying for this event. Well, with that said, let's head over to Scott for week 2 of the Three Stooges.
Open wide. That's the one.
Are you telling me?
Get me a piece of strong string.
Yes. What are you going to do, Doc?
I'm going to pull that bad tooth.
Is it going to hurt?
No, I don't
not
think
over.
so.
Here's the string. Tie a nice sailor's knot. Got it around?
Yeah.
Fine.
Follow me.
Sit down.
All set?
Easy, kid. Quiet. Larry, untie that line. We'll do it the old reliable way. Come on. All right, now take it easy, kid. We'll have that thing out before you can say Ticonderoga. If you can say Ticonderoga. All right, back up just a little bit. Okay, sonny boy? All right. Ellie!
Oh, what a tooth. No wonder it was killing me.
You nitwit, that's the doorknob.
Oh, yeah?
Come on. Why, you imbecile. All we're trying to do is give you a hand here so you can get out of it.
Oh!
What's the matter, Chip?
I'm dead. I'm dying. He shot me. Get a doctor. Do something.
Oh, quiet, pickle puss. All he did was pull your tooth.
Is that all? Thanks. I feel like $1,000,000.
Well, hello there. It's so great to be with you today, wherever you are and whenever this is for you. If this happens to be your first time with us, my name is Scott, and last week we began a 3-part series called The Three Stooges. If you do happen to be joining us for the first time today, or if you missed last week for one reason or another, I would, as always, encourage you to go to the on-demand section of our webpage. You can go to our YouTube channel or even download our podcast. Either way you do it, I would encourage you to take some time to take the first part of this series in, because what we talked about last week will put today and the rest of the series in better context, but also, and more importantly, what we talked about last week is something that has implications for today, and believe it or not, implications for the rest of your life. In this series, we're looking at a famous story that Jesus told, and perhaps you've heard it before. My guess is many watching or listening have heard it before, perhaps even you. Many have heard this story, in fact, so many times that it's easy to read right over it. And sadly, tragically even, when it comes to the stories that Jesus told, as a result of their familiarity, we run the risk of missing the severity of their point or the message that Jesus was trying to convey with the stories that he told. Unlike the Three Stooges, this story isn't meant for comedic relief, but it's a story about Three Stooges with eternal significance and personal implications. And when you hear this famous story, you're hearing the master teacher, Jesus Christ, delivering a parable to explain to us that which we cannot see, using a story that we can see. It's a parable about the kingdom of heaven, and Jesus used a story to explain it because the ways of God and the things that God has for us, for you and me, they are beyond human comprehension. Last week we sat on the Mount of Olives with the disciples in Matthew chapter 25 as Jesus was telling them a fictional story, a parable, again, not to make them laugh, but to help them learn. Not to entertain, but to educate. Jesus isn't telling them this story like the Three Stooges for laughs. He was telling them a story about Three Stooges to explain that which we cannot see, using a story that we can see. He's telling a story to tell us who God is, what the kingdom of heaven is like, what it meant for them then, and as we look at the story today in this series, we'll discover what it all means to and for you and I today. After telling one story that I promise we'll look at another time because it's a great story, Jesus says again, like he had just told one story and now he's about to tell another. He said, the kingdom of heaven is like the story, or in other words, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. This man, he called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is like, I love this, the kingdom of heaven is like. In other words, it's not this, but it's like this. He's using something that you can understand to explain something that is beyond human understanding. Jesus said, this man called together his servants. And the point that Jesus was trying to make is that this man and his servants, or in other translations, this master and his slaves, they are worlds apart. Trust me, they are not the same things at all. The kingdom of heaven is like a master who gives his money to, get this, not to his children, right? He doesn't give talents or money to his heirs. He bypasses his neighbors. And if you were sitting at the feet of Jesus as he's telling this story to help them understand who God is and what his kingdom is like, and he illustrates this as a man who gives his wealth to his servants. I mean, come on, this idea, it was shocking. It was revolutionary. They wouldn't have read over this. They'd have been floored by it. I mean, this is no joke. This is a complete shock because a master would never give his wealth to a slave. That's crazy. It's unheard of. The slave has been entrusted with his master's stuff. He didn't work for it. He didn't labor to get it. He didn't earn it. He was entrusted with it. And the reason this was so important for Jesus to talk about and for us to look at what he said is because understanding this idea Jesus is trying to help us see impacts everything. It impacts how we see and understand God. It impacts how we see ourselves, and it impacts how we see what doesn't and doesn't happen to us, in us, or around us. He is the master, meaning we are not. He is the master, and we, you and I, we have been entrusted with what belongs to him. As we said last week, what you have has been entrusted to you, not earned by you. What you have has been entrusted to you, not earned by you. And if you don't understand what you've been given and from where and who it came from, you don't understand why you have it. And you can't understand your responsibility to it. If you can't see that he is the giver or the master, you don't understand how to value the gift that you've been given, and you can't understand why, when, or how you lose it. Each of us has been entrusted with something. We have, just as these Three Stooges were. In Jesus' story, he said that this man, he gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last. And that this master, he divided it in proportion to their abilities. And then after doing this, he went on his trip. 3 different slaves, 3 different amounts. Interesting. The one who had 2 probably looked at the one who had 5 and he said, why did you get more? I mean, wouldn't you? I probably would have. And the one who had 1 probably looked at the one with 2 and thought, why did he get more? I mean, wouldn't you? I'm pretty sure I would too. See, as they looked at one another, they would have been very aware of the reality that they were not given the same amounts, and in doing so, missed the fact that each of them had been gifted. Jesus says that this master, he gifted them, but he didn't gift them the same. Jesus was sitting with his disciples, again, his friends, and he's trying to help them see who God is and who they are and what God's kingdom is like. Because remember, the kingdom of heaven, remember how it started? The kingdom of heaven is like the story. Again, it's like this, but it's not this. He's trying to explain something we can't see using a story that we can see. And in this story, what we begin to see very clearly is something that we have all seen, something maybe we've wondered about, and to be honest, maybe we've even wrestled or struggled with, because what we see in Jesus' story is that God is not fair. God is not fair. I can tell by the way Gigi sang just a few minutes ago that God is not fair, right? I mean, the fact that Gigi can sing like that, we are so blessed by it. But come on, right? That's not fair. It's not fair that she can sing like that and we can't, right? Because unlike Gigi, some of us sound like, I don't know, like a bunch of cats stabbed in the neck when we sing, right? Okay, sorry, that was a little bit graphic. I didn't mean it that in an offensive way. I mean that in the most polite possible way. I should have said it something like this. Some of us do not have the ministry of music, right? That's a little more politically correct. I mean, you can make a joyful noise, but please make it to the Lord because we don't want to hear you do it, okay? But look, listen, this story isn't about what we hear. It's about what Jesus is trying to help us see. It's about who God is and what his kingdom is like. And in this story, what Jesus is trying to help us see is that God is not fair, but God is just. You see, fair would be 2 for you, 2 for you, 2 for you, 2 for you, 2 for you. That would be fair. But just says, I'm not concerned about that. I'm not worried about being fair. As Jesus is telling his story, he said that he, this man, this master, Jesus said that he gave to them according or in proportion to their ability. And thank God for that. Thank God that that is who God is and what his kingdom is like. That's good news. And do you want to know why that's good news? Jesus, again, helping us see and understand what we can't see and understand. He said that the master gave gifts according to ability. In other words, he considered what I could handle before he gave it to me. My prayer is always, Lord, don't give me a gift I can't handle. Lord, don't give me an opportunity I can't handle. God, don't give me a responsibility that I can't handle. If you're going to give me something, give me what I'm able to handle. That's what I want. To put it another way, when I started recording this message today, before I pressed record, to record at the quality level that we do, we only have so much time, right? In other words, we only have a maximum space allowed in the memory card based on the quality that we record at. So the card can only handle so much, 29 minutes to be exact, and I'm going to push it to the limit today, okay? But here's the thing, listen. I have to consider what the card can handle before I press record. See, that's why it's not good to be jealous of what anybody else has or what they can do. Because if you're not careful, you might ask or desire to be like somebody else and get something that you weren't built to handle. God, give me what I can handle, right? You don't want what other people have. You want what God has for you. Think about it. Aren't you glad God considered your ability before he put something on you or gave something to you? We have not been given the same amount, but what we have been given the same is the same responsibility. The responsibility to do that which has been put on us or in us to do. And God considered your ability before he placed that responsibility on you. So take heart. Take heart and find encouragement and courage in what your limit is. When you find yourself in a position where that thing you're doing is void of joy and passion, and it's actually driving you crazy, giving you, a nervous breakdown or pushing you to the limit, take heart. Take heart. What you're trying to do, it actually may be outside your ability, and that's okay. That's okay. Every blessing is not a blessing, and every success is not a success. You don't want what other people have. Trust me. You want what God has for you. And so God, not as someone who is fair, but as someone who is just. Jesus said he gave 5 to one, 2 to the other one, and he gave one. Larry's got 5, Mo's got 2, and Curly's got 1, each according or in proportion to his ability. The one thing they all had in common is what we have in common this morning, or whenever it is you're watching or listening. They didn't have the same talents. They didn't have the same amounts. But all 3 of them had an opportunity. An opportunity. You may not have what the person next to you has. You might not be able to do what they can do. You might not, look like they look. You might not have their resources. You might not be able to play the guitars like those guys were playing the guitars earlier. You may not be able to play the drums like Tyler did today. You may not be a speaker or able to sing like somebody else can sing. You might not, be able to draw like somebody else can draw, or build or bake like somebody else can build or bake. But the one thing we all have in common, when we woke up this morning and we were not dead, we woke up with an opportunity. An opportunity. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money, and he earned 5 more. The servant who had 5, Larry, he immediately went to work, and he says, I've got 5, but I see how it can be 10. He took what he had been given and he turned it into something. And that's what I want to be like. That's what I want to push our staff to do and be like. See, I love working with the people on our team here at the Bridge, and I want to push them that if I hand you something, if I hand you some work to do, I don't want you just to hand it back to me like I gave it to you. I want you to take it, and I want you to turn it into something. That's what I want, and my guess is that's what you want. And see, here's the thing. That's what God wants. Be fruitful. Be fruitful. Turn that opportunity into something. Turn that department into something. Turn that team into something. Turn that house into a home. Turn that woman into a wife. Turn that man into a husband. Turn that child into someone they would not be without your presence in their life. Turn it into something. Turn it into something. Be fruitful. Work your magic on it. Make it more than what it was. Larry had 5, but he said, I see how it can be 10. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work, and he earned 2 more. So Mo says, I see how 2 can be 4. And Curly, well, Curly said, I don't want to take any chances. I don't want to take any chances. The disciples are leaning in as Jesus is helping them see themselves in the story. And Jesus said that the first 2 were fruitful, but the servant who received the 1 bag of silver, he dug a hole in the ground and he hid his master's money. Now see, this is important. It wasn't that he didn't work. He went to work. He grabbed the shovel and he started digging, but instead of working and exerting effort and energy on building upon what he'd been given, he instead invested his time and energy burying what he had been given. And if we jump down just a few verses later, we discover why. Upon the return of his master, when explaining why he responded the way he did to and with what he had been entrusted with, the third servant confessed, I was afraid. I was afraid that I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth, and now, here's your money back. Jesus said that he was afraid, and that because of his fear, he hid his talent in the earth. His mistake is the mistake that Jesus was trying to warn them of, and the mistake that I hope his story will warn you and I of. That if you expose your fear, you will bury your talent. If you expose your fear, you will bury your talent. You need to reverse it. You need to bury your fear and expose your talent. I want to challenge you with what Jesus in his storytelling brilliance was challenging his disciples with as they sat on the Mount of Olives. The Master has entrusted you with what belongs to him. And in order to take advantage of the opportunity that is before you, you have to bury your fear and expose your talent. You have to not deny your fear, but bury it. You see, everybody has fear. I have fear. You have fear. But you don't have to let your fear have you. If you're going to do what God has called you to do, if you're going to be who God has called you to be, you've got to reverse the process. Stop exposing your fear. Bury your fear. Don't live in denial that fear is a reality in your heart and in your mind, but choose to bury it and instead focus on the words of Jesus Christ and lift up your talent and say, this is the day the Lord has made, and I am who, and this is what he has entrusted to me, so I'm going to turn it into something. I'm going to turn it into something. You see, it's easier to bury your talent than it is your fear. But my hope is that you're going to come to a point where you realize that someday is actually today, and that there is no right or perfect or easy time. So bury your fear and jump into your opportunity. When God gives you an opportunity, you need to work your magic on it, and you need to turn it into something. Larry turned 5 into 10. Mo turned 2 into 4. And Curly, well, he kind of messed up the story a little bit, right? He's like, no, see, what had happened was, Jesus was telling his friends this story to help them see that which they could not see. To understand something that was beyond their and our understanding. That the kingdom of heaven is like a master who entrusted his servants with what belonged to him. He didn't divide it fairly, but he divided it justly according to their abilities. 3 servants were given a similar opportunity, and sadly, they did not experience the same outcome. The third servant never turned his opportunity into anything because of his fear. That's what happened in the story that Jesus told, and I wonder what's going to happen to the story, not that Jesus told, but the story that you're living. What are you going to do with what the Master has given you? What are you going to do with the life that He has given you, and the talent that He has given you, and the time that He has given you, and the influence that He has given you, and the gifts that He has given you, and the resources that He has given you, and the creativity that He has given you? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with what He has entrusted to you? Can I let you in on something? It's a sobering thought, but it's a thought that I've become more and more aware of as I look at life and how I want to live the time and life that I've been given. And here it is. It's simple, but it's sobering, at least for me. There's somebody in the hospital right now wishing they could be where you are right now. There's somebody on a breathing machine somewhere wishing they could be where you are right now. I know you got some problems. I know you've got some issues. I know maybe you got some baggage, but you got up out of bed today. You combed your own hair, which must be nice. But listen, you brushed your own teeth. You dressed yourself. You're still here. So what are you going to do with what God has given or entrusted to you? This is so important for you to understand. It's so important for you to understand what we said last week, that who you are and everything you have has been entrusted to you, not earned by you. That the kingdom of heaven is like a man or master who gifted his servants, entrusted what belonged to him to them, and as a result, you have an opportunity today. You have a responsibility today. And you need to understand this, because what you understand today impacts what you experience tomorrow. If you've been entrusted with what belongs to the master, and Jesus said that you have, that means you have both an opportunity and responsibility to do something with it. And the time will come when you will give an account to the master for what you have or what you have not done. And we're going to talk about that next week. And what we're going to see, it may actually push against our beliefs about who God is and what God is like. But that's exactly why Jesus told this story about the three Stooges. He said the kingdom of heaven is like. The kingdom of heaven is like. In other words, it's not this, but it's like this. He's using something that you can understand to explain something that is beyond our understanding. And we're going to talk more about that next week. But between now and then, I'd like to pray for you, whoever you are and wherever you are. And before I do that, what I want you to do today, it's simple. It's kind of think of it as an application for today. What I want you to do is, whether it's over lunch, maybe, it's over dinner, but listen, before the sun goes down today, I want you to share with someone, whoever it is. It could be a friend, maybe it's your spouse, maybe you post it on social media. I don't know how you're going to do it. Whoever it is, however you're going to do it, I want you to share one practical, tangible thing that you are going to do with what you have been entrusted with. To help you do that, I want you to fill in these blanks. I'm going to put them up on the screen. I have been entrusted with this, so I'm going to do this. I have been entrusted with this, so I am going to do this. See, the question isn't, why didn't I get that? The question is, why do I have this? And what am I going to do with it? Whatever it is, don't bury it. Don't let the fear of what may or may not happen allow you to bury your talent and lose your opportunity. See, it's not a question of talent. You have been entrusted with what belongs to the master. The question is, what are you going to do about it and with it? Tell someone today, and we'll talk about the implications next week. But until then, wherever you are, whenever this is for you, whatever you've been to or through in your life, let me pray for you that you would have the courage to seize your opportunity. Let me pray. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this opportunity to gather in this way. Thank you, Father, for the internet and for video cameras and things that allow us to be together even though we are not together. And God, I pray for the person who is on the other side of this camera right now, who when they look in the mirror, they don't see themselves as one who has been entrusted with anything, that they don't like who or what they see. In fact, they look around and wish they had this, or they wish they were more like them, or they wish they had that. Help them to see that you have entrusted them with something that belongs to you, and that means there is purpose in and for them today. Help them to see themselves, more importantly, you, who you are and all that you have done. Help them to see all of these things in a new way today, and help them to have the courage to seize the opportunity that they've been given wherever they are. I pray this in Jesus' powerful name. Amen. We'll see you next week.
God, Spirit of the living God, we want to know you more and more. We're hanging on every word. Come and speak to us, Lord. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we only wanna hear your voice. We're hanging on every word. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we wanna know you more and more. We're hanging on every word. 'Cause when you speak and when you move, when you do what only you can do, it changes us, changes what we see. And what do we see when you come in the room? And when you do what only you can do, it changes us, it changes what we see. And what do we see? Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we're leaning into all you are. Come now and have your way. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, come now and breathe upon our hearts. Come now and have your way. 'Cause when you speak and when you move and when you do what only you can do, it changes us, it changes what we see. And what do we see when you come in the room? And when you do what only you can do, it changes us, it changes what we see. And what do we see? You're changing everything. 'Cause when you move all our fears. And when you move us to tears. When you move all our fears. And when you move us to tears, God. When you fall, we fall on our knees. And when you fall, we fall at your feet. And when you fall, we fall on our knees. And when you fall, we fall at your feet. Yeah. 'Cause when you speak and when you move, when you do what only you can do, it changes us, it changes what we see. And what do we see when you come in the room? And when you do what only you can do, it changes us, it changes what we see. And what do we see? You're changing everything. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of the living God, we only wanna hear your voice. We're hanging on every word.
Well, thank you, Ben. What a powerful way to end our service today. And thank you, Scott, for another thought-provoking message. Well, as we close out today, I just want to thank those who give so generously week after week after week and help support the mission and vision of what we do here at the Bridge. Because of you, we're able to reach people like never before. We're able to broadcast in some, not only the Ottawa area, but other provinces and even other countries around the world. We're able to offer an incredible kids camp where we can reach kids in Christ's name for a whole week long and their families. It is absolutely amazing. And if you're interested in helping us financially, if you're interested in giving some of the treasure that God has entrusted to you to help us in our mission, we'd love for you to head over to bridgechurches.ca/give, and you can find the different ways you can support us there. And thank you to all those who give so generously week after week. Because of you, we're able to reach this world with the gospel of Christ. Well, that's our service today. We'd love to have you back here for week 3 and the wrap up, the conclusion of the Three Stooges. Until then, God bless and have a great week.